Jets are on a 2-game winning streak, obviously before the bye. Dramatic comeback against the Cincinnati Bengals, a 39-38 victory. Then a very busy trade deadline day before the Jets came back home and beat the Cleveland Browns 27-20. Impressive complimentary football from Aaron Glenn's crew. But coming up, the task is about to get tougher. It's a Thursday night battle against the division-leading Patriots in New England. We're talking all things Jets coming up with Baldy and Bart.
We beat anybody in the world, and I think we're going to win next Sunday.
It's picked off. Aaron Glenn. Jumbled and caught. Jumbo Elliott. One-handed catch. Chris Paul gets running room. It's Reeves. Can't wait.
Put your seatbelts on and get ready for the ride.
The official Jets podcast is presented by Kendra Scott, the jewelry company that's shining bright and doing good. Personalize your game day look by shopping spirited styles and so much more at your local Kendra Scott store or kendrascott.com, where team spirit meets personal style. Bart Scott, how you feeling on this Victory Monday?
I mean, I'm starting to get used to this. I mean, this feels like 3 weeks in a row because I celebrated the first win twice. But I tell you what, it was a good team win. A lot of guys stepped up, and 1/3 of the team carried the team, and that was the special teams. That had been special all year, but they were extremely special today. So, I was excited to see it, happy to get the victory, and on to the next short week. Can't really celebrate it that much.
Speaking of special, we weren't going to tape this podcast without our man, Baldy. Baldy, how's it going, brother?
Well, hey, guys, Bart, EA, good to be with you. Good, happy Monday, all that kind of stuff. I just got done watching the Jets game. You're right, Bart. Look, I'll say a couple things. Cleveland's a great defense. They have been all year. They've given everybody trouble.
Yep.
I thought they finished the game strong in the fourth quarter. Obviously, Breece with the screen, but I thought they really won the line of scrimmage in the fourth quarter. It took a while to get there.
Yeah.
And then I thought defensively, Bart, a lot of guys that Michael Walker, I mean, you look at a bunch of guys, they had 10 tackle for losses, not just Will McDonald with the sacks. They had a lot of tackle for losses. A lot of guys that people don't really know or pay attention to. They play with great effort throughout the day. And when you get a W, you earn that W. And special teams, a lot of guys out there, Dean Clark, Jasir Taylor, get blocks, for these guys. It was good. It was fun to watch.
Man, there's so many. Yeah, go ahead, Bart.
The crazy thing is, I think what yesterday represented is, we were all a little sad about what we lost, but we were able to see what we kept. And you kept Jermaine Johnson and you kept Breece Hall. And, it was going to be one or the other. And, we wish the other guys well. Sauce had a good day on Drake London, and Quinnen is getting a bye week and get to come back and prove his worth. But I thought it was apparent that Breece is somebody that this offense needs to go through, and it's somebody that you build around. It's not somebody that you trade for a mere fourth-round draft pick.
Oh, so many things to get to here. You spoke about Breece. The 42-yard touchdown in the fourth quarter, that was the game-winning score, and we saw the explosion. When he really gets any type of space, Baldy, man, he is a pleasure to watch. And also, you just said you broke down the film. The other thing that I was really impressed with offensively there in the fourth quarter is the Jets were able to run the football, where the Browns entering that game had been giving up 8 yards in the fourth quarter on average, and the Jets had nearly 40 yards on the ground in the fourth quarter.
Well, let's just talk about Breece for a second, because obviously the screen, they caught him in a blitz, okay, and that's when you got to use the screen as a weapon, to try to slow down Myles Garrett and the guys coming at him. But they caught him in a blitz. The receivers down the field, Tyler Johnson, Isaiah Williams, they got their blocks, and Breece finished it. But there was a play, I know you saw it, Bart, Breece had Carson Schlesinger and Shelby Harris right in his face. He presses the hole. You talk about explosion, EA. It was the best run that Breece has had all year. He puts his feet in the ground and explodes to the left. Schlesinger doesn't miss tackles. The kid's a great player. But, Shelby Harris is right there. They blitz it. He puts him in a deep freeze and bounces it to the left for 20 yards. It was a big, big play, in that fourth quarter. And that sort of shows you the Breece talent that you're talking about, EA.
Bart, what do you make of where Breece is at right now through 9 games? And also, what do you anticipate seeing from him down the stretch?
Well, what I anticipate is that Breece solidified and confirmed what the Jets brass already knew, that he's a building block. You want Breece on board. You want him as a catalyst to propel this team forward, whether what you decide to do at quarterback or young receivers. You need a guy that's proven like Breece to make sure that he can make everybody else a force multiplier. I love Garrett, but the offense goes through Breece. It makes it easier for them as well. So what I expect is for Breece to continue to feature what a great talent he is, extra, and to figure out different ways to get him the ball in his hands so that he can continue to give you explosives with low risk, high reward.
On days like Sunday, Baldy, you watch him and you would say easily this guy is a top 3 to top 5 talent in the running back position in this league.
I don't think there's any question about it. I mean, because he's a dual purpose back, and it's sometimes you run into a brick wall. Like I look, there's days when the defense is really good, and you have to be patient. You're going to get negative plays. You're going to have plays that are going to backfire. But when you can run it on 3rd and 4 and pick up 6, when you can have Schlesinger and Shelby Harris in your face and pick up 20, when you can, in a 17-17 deadlock game, go 42 to the house and dive into the end zone, like those are special plays. Not everybody's capable of making them. And I thought they really leaned on him heavily. And to Bart's point, like this has to be a guy that you have to say he's part of the core group that we're going to build with going forward with assets and money and the whole thing. We want him to be a part of it.
Yeah, we're going to have to see what happens with Garrett Wilson, who unfortunately exited yesterday's game with that knee injury. He had missed the previous 2 games with the knee ailment. Adonai Mitchell was a game day inactive. We'll have to see what his chances are this week. The Jets tried to get John Mechie involved, and that was actually the play that preceded the Hall touchdown. On the other side of the ball, what did you make of Harrison Phillips and Jawan Briggs, those big guys in the middle, coming up to the forefront, Bart, after the trade of Quinnen Williams? And also I wanted to ask you about Quinnen's brother, his big brother, Quincy, how he responded to some adversity.
Well, this is what I witnessed, right? Understanding that when you put 2 big guys in there, remember, Quinnen was only like 305 pounds. When you put Mazi Smith in there, that's 340 pounds. When you put Briggs in there, that's a big fire hydrant. What that allows is for those linebackers to run free, because those are going to eat up 4 bodies right there. But then what it signified is defined roles. People know what their job is. I played with a guy named Kelly Gray who didn't care nothing about getting any glory. All he cared about was make sure that his linebackers was clean, and then if he fell into a sack, that's all that mattered. He didn't care. He could care less. Now with those 2 guys in the middle just worrying about doing their job and keeping the linebackers clean, that creates one-on-ones on the outside for McDonald and for Jermaine Johnson. What you have now is defined roles, understood roles, right? Where guys aren't trying, they're just going to try and keep pushing the pocket, hope we can rotate some more big guys in. When we talk about, the four-man rotation they had at defensive tackle was all massive people. And it's starting to reflect and look like what we saw in Detroit when they just had 2 massive guys, whether it's Reeder or McNeil. I think they're a little bit more talented as far as the pass rushing ability, but it looked like, some old Pat Williams, Kevin Williams, big, heavy dudes in the middle, eating up 2 blockers, allowing your outside rushers to run free, and then letting your linebacker scrape sideline to sideline. And to your other question about Quincy, I thought Quincy handled it way more mature than I would have. I would have been doing a victory lap after I don't start, get 8 tackles, 2 for a loss, and a sack. I would have been letting everybody know that I should have never been on the bench to begin with. But these guys were raised a lot more humble than I was. And I thought that he was very professional afterwards, not to throw it in the coaches' faces, to keep it professional. and sound like a guy that wants to be part of the future as well. And I understand that he's 29 years old, and I know what that means in this league. When you're going to turn 30, you don't want to give somebody a 3-year deal. But all the Jets need to look to is a guy like Demario Davis that played well into his late 30s. Look at guys that like Warner, not Fred Warner, but Wagner, who's played
Bobby Wagner, yeah.
3 years, and understand that even if Quincy ever loses a step, he's so much faster than the typical linebacker at his position that he's still going to be effective.
You know, we were talking about Breece Hall and his explosiveness. I mean, same thing for Quincy Williams. When you watch that guy play linebacker, man, he is so sudden. Barb just brought up a good point, though, that I wanted you to touch upon, Baldy. You know, everybody, rightfully so, is looking at the Jets' draft capital now, the accumulation following these deals, the 5 first-round picks in 2026 and 2027, potentially the 4 top 50 picks next April, the 4 in the first 2 rounds here in the 2026 NFL draft. But I don't think people are properly addressing these trades either, because they're kind of overlooking A.D. Mitchell and what he might potentially bring to the table. They're kind of overlooking Mechie and potentially how he could help in the slot. They're kind of overlooking that, hey, maybe Mozzie Smith is going to benefit from a change of address.
You never know. I mean, A.D. Mitchell, first of all, I mean, that guy to be thrown into the deal with Sauce and what they got, that was amazing. A.D. Mitchell can flat out play. That's a guy that's 6'3", he's 205, he runs in the 4.3s. He had a great career in college. He's made plays this year and last year in that offense. He just wasn't starting. They had Pierce and they had,
Downs.
Yeah, and Downs. I mean, they had their 3 guys. You know, they got the league's leading rusher. But there's an opportunity for A.D. Mitchell to really blossom in this offense, whether it's a number 2, a 1A next to Garrett. Like, he has a chance to flourish, along with, you know, some of the other guys, Smith, who's a rookie and made a big play the other day. Isaiah Williams has shown flashes. You can start to see the tenets of what could be going forward. And so Mozzie is, look, he's got to work on his pass rush, but to Bart's part, he does eat up space. He was on the field. Jay Tufeli, you know, had some plays there. He started with Harrison Phillips.
Yep.
They are bigger up front, which Bart's been, begging for that for 2 years now. Like, get bigger up front. And I agree, because you give Jamie and Sherwood a space, he'll go make every tackle. I mean, he's just that type of linebacker.
All right, before we jump into Thursday's matchup with the Patriots, Bart, you made your hay in the league early in your career on special teams.
Yeah.
What can you say about Chris Banjo's unit? Not just yesterday, but for my money, fellas, Kene Nwanwu is as good as any kick returner in the entire National Football League. And you got to give this coaching staff and the person himself a lot of credit in Isaiah Williams. The way he bounced back from Miami and the mistakes he made in Miami, and they stuck with him. And now look at where he's at. And how about the kickers this season? I know, again, not a sexy conversation, but Nick Folk has been as good as anybody out there, and Austin McNamara is having a Pro Bowl season himself.
Well, listen, this is the third that goes neglected, and you don't really talk about them unless you have a bad unit. But, I think, the hard part was trying to figure out, how do I set up returns in this new environment where guys are just basically rushing and everybody's on the same level. You see some teams are starting to make like second and third level guys off the ball. Some guys are flatline. And, I thought the Jets did a great job. When you talk about having a running back that's at kick returner, Brian Mitchell was one of the hardest people to ever deal with, because you got guys out there on the kickoff team that are offensive players. Some are defensive players, safeties and third tight ends and stuff like that. They're not great in tackling. And when you have to make a real tackle on a running back coming down with you in space, because everybody's on the same level, because when you used to have to run the old kickoff, the faster guys would eventually get in front of the slower guys, and you start folding and natural overlapping. And you would have 2 guys that were safeties that would make sure that they stayed back. So now you had different levels, much like a real defense. But now with everybody running down flatline and getting a hat on a hat at the same time, now once you break through, it's nobody there. So the key is getting through the first wave. And if you get through the first wave, there are opportunities for big plays. And I thought they did a great job in getting a hat on the hat and making sure that you press the hole. And I always like the center, the middle return, because the middle return is straight ahead, no fair dodging, and everybody's going to stay in their lanes. And if you act like you're going to the outside, you press the ball up the middle, nobody there but the kicker. And we all know that they're on every highlight tape of every touchdown and every kick returner's highlight film.
Man,
let me jump in here real quick here, EA. You think about this, going back to week 1. They basically lost the game to Pittsburgh because Gibson puts the ball on the ground and gives Pittsburgh a short field. They end up winning the game because of that. Now they're winning a game with Kane. They got a real returner, guy that can catch and run it. But on that return for a touchdown, the double team by Stone Smart and Andrew Beck, it was a design to Bart's point, middle return. They doubled there. Isaiah Davis got a great block, and that's all Kane really needed. Like, this Stone Smart is a core special team player. Andrew Beck, little, fullback action, but core special team player. You see, like, Quantez Stiggers. We don't talk about him much. Core special team players. Like, they're identifying certain players. They're not stars, but it's a third of the game. They won the game yesterday because of it. And so I got to give, Aaron credit here, because they're identifying players for roles. And that's all a player wants. What's my role, coach? What do you want me to do? And you can see these guys did it. Like, they were excited about it. On the Isaiah Williams touchdown, there's 5 guys in the end zone with Isaiah celebrating with them, trailing the play. And they go to their practice on a short week, getting ready for the Patriots. They know that they have a role, that they executed that role, and they were a big part of their stacking their second win in a row.
Yeah, there's something building here. There's no doubt about that. I mean, so Will McDonald, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention him, Bart. The 4 sacks, that ties a franchise record in terms of single game. We've talked about his freakish athletic ability for a long time. What did you see from him specifically yesterday that led to that kind of production?
Well, I mean, listen, smart in getting to the quarterback depth and replacing, 2 of them he got because he was a disciplined football player. What I did like is the addition to his repertoire that we haven't really seen was a long arm stab. And, we always know, we know about the speed and the rip, dip and rip. We know about the spin move to the inside, but being able to have the ability to press the tackle and then hit him with athleticism and then straight to power, speed to power with the long arm, using his height to keep the tackle from being able to get his hands on his body with the long arm stab is something that's new and something that he has to add in, because guys are going to make sure that they're trying to either sit on the spin or get out of there quickly. So you have to have a third move. And I think he showed that very well yesterday and was able to be, to me, an outstanding player. And that's the beauty of it. We knew that he was a core guy. We knew that people were calling about him or calling about Jermaine Johnson. I like to tandem together. And now you have the ability to make sure that you can retain some of these guys, whether you decide to pick up the 5th-year option on Jermaine Johnson and then, start paying guys early front end, because you won't have to pay a quarterback around here for a long time. So if you get these guys on today's prices, you'll be better in the long run.
Jets have become a more disciplined ball club, Baldy. You're talking about them finishing the game yesterday with the ball. Bart was talking about this, I know, on his postgame show right after the game. It was Cleveland, the one committing those killer penalties, the holding penalty to the defensive backfield. Then a 4th and 5, Aaron Glenn has his offensive unit line up, and most people in the stadium are thinking there's no way the Jets are going to take a snap in that situation, but they still got him to jump. So, I mean, that's what disciplined teams do. You're seeing the Jets take steps because maybe early in the year, it's them jumping off sides.
Oh, you can see the whole Cleveland Brown team. They use their timeouts and trying to get one more possession to go down there and score. And you can see the whole Cleveland Brown defense just like, I can't believe we just did that. That's, and we they had their share of penalties on defense. They had a couple, but for the most part, the discipline penalties, the pre-snap penalties, the offside penalties, things that they were doing earlier in the year, we didn't see that yesterday. And that's why you end up stacking 2 wins in a row. And you don't beat yourselves. You they let the other team do that. So that was important.
All right, let's take a quick break, and then we're going to see if the Jets can stack up a third consecutive win. Jets fans, clear the runway at MetLife Stadium for Week 13 as the New York Jets take on the Atlanta Falcons Sunday, November 13th at 1 p.m., presented by New Jersey Lottery. Lock in your seats now at nyjets.com/tickets. The official Jets podcast is presented by Kendra Scott, the jewelry company that's shining bright and doing good. Personalize your game day look by shopping spirited styles and so much more at your local Kendra Scott store or kendrascott.com, where team spirit meets personal style. All right, Bart. The Jets are done with the Ohio portion of their schedule. They're going to New England Thursday night against those hated Patriots. Give me a game plan for Aaron Glenn this week.
Don't let the ball go over your head. Drake May is probably throwing the deep ball better than anybody in football. They run the ball effectively, and they're a disciplined team, tough, hard-nosed, and we know what this game means for them. Vrabel knows this rivalry just as good as anybody else, and so does Aaron Glenn. You know that the emotions and the passion that's going to be involved. Make sure you don't give up big plays on a short week. You're going to have to jump on them early and show them that you're not the team that they saw on film, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, I just did that game yesterday in Tampa, so I just saw them firsthand. They're excellent against the run. They're as good as Cleveland against her. In fact, they're the best team in the league against the run. So, that's going to be important. But, Drake May, to Bart's point, he is an incredibly accurate quarterback. He's the number 1 rated quarterback in this league. He's a candidate to be the MVP of the league, and rightfully so. He made one big throw. I mean, the 4th down throw on the goal line at the end of the half to Diggs is a perfect throw. Great catch by Diggs. But, he is the 2nd most sacked quarterback in this league. And so, Will McDonald against Will Campbell. Let's see. Let's get after him. The left guard, Jared Wilson, has had issues. They've given up a lot of sacks. And so one of the things I saw on Sunday, one of the sacks by Will, was they actually put Johnson and Will McDonald inside, and they put Johnson over the center, and they got him isolated, Will McDonald, against Wyatt Teller, and he beat him on a spin. And so you got to kind of move some guys around here. How can you get to Drake May? How can you get him down to the ground where he can't hold the ball to get the deep shots like we saw yesterday? And then the last thing I would say, we saw Travion Henderson with 2 long touchdown runs.
Yeah.
You got to tackle. I mean, because this guy we saw Quinshon Judkins. They did a good job against him yesterday. He's a talented runner. The other half of that Ohio State combination they're going to see this week. And Tampa did not do a good job of tackling. And that was the difference in the game. 2 long touchdown runs by Henderson. I'm sure all those runs will be put up on the screen today, tomorrow. You got to get this guy to the ground.
Jets scored 27 points in their win over Cleveland, of course, Bart. But so that's 13 offensive points. You're going to need more against the Patriots. Baldy's talking about this stout Patriots defense. They put a lot of money into the defense in free agency. Give me a game plan offensively for Tanner Angstrand in terms of making sure Breece is the focal point. But again, the Jets obviously going to have to get more out of their passing game, and we're going to have to see about the status of Garrett Wilson. There could be a situation here where maybe on a short week you don't have your star receiver again for the 3rd time in 4 games.
Well, you saw yesterday with the Rams, you can go with your jumbo package and then try and break the formation and see if you can get matchups and get them to – you got to figure out what your best personnel group is, one to run and pass, and maybe they're the same one. Change the tempo, change the pace. They're going to have to throw the football. They're not going to get away with just running the football and being one-dimensional. But it doesn't mean you can't get the attempts. There's multiple ways to run the football. You can run the football by throwing the ball first. Or you can run the football out of light packages or out of 3 wides and still run power plays. You just got to figure out where's your advantage and where do you have the advantage as far as the personnel groupings and the matchups that you want, and you exploit those matchups.
Yeah, I'd love to see Mason Taylor get a little bit of action here against the Patriots as we see a rivalry renewed. Defensively, you talked about watching May there in person against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That was an awfully impressive win for Vrabel and his crew. the Jets, very young in that secondary. We saw A.Z. Thomas go out of the ball game, so we saw Jarvis Brownlee start at nickel, and then he moves over outside, and I think Stiggers actually might have finished the game outside. So the Jets are throwing a lot of different pieces back there, and this Patriots crew vastly improved at the wide receiver position after the pickup of Diggs in offseason, Baldy.
Well, Diggs is their go-to guy on a third down, like just because he can still win one-on-ones. Like he's still his route running, his ability to separate. They went to him a number of times. They played without their deep threat yesterday. Keyshawn Butte, who's an excellent player. He got deep speed, and they played without him yesterday. So they kind of make up for it. But Pop Douglas is a guy you got to pay attention to. They game plan with him. Hunter Henry is a viable tight end threat, and they throw to their backs. And they played without Ramondre Stevenson yesterday, but they've overcome it. They're a very young team, just the way Cleveland is, the way that a lot of these teams are. You got to play your young guys, and they've got an excellent core. But look, the screen pass was effective yesterday. It was a difference in the game, and so you find it might be you just find new plays, different ways to get the ball to Mason Taylor, maybe a halfback pass. Now you just find different ways to find a play. I'll say this. The Patriots defense played excellent yesterday, especially in the second half. But it was 80 degrees and humid. It took a lot out of those guys. Everybody was tired at the end of that game. And they got to go home. They're going to be a little gassed. The Jets are home. They've been playing that kind of heat. Like, take advantage of the fact that legs might be a little fresher than what the Patriots were this weekend. They've won 7 in a row. They feel good about themselves. They're the hottest team in the league right now. Maybe you get them feeling just a little bit good about themselves, knowing that the Jets aren't quite the opponent that the Bucs were. I'm sure Weber will have them ready. He's a great coach and great leader. But all those things might come into play up in New England on Thursday night.
Big picture, Bart. It's interesting. Did you expect New England's flip that happened so fast in terms of their record last year and the change of personnel and then the new coaching staff? And they did have a young, talented quarterback in place in May who is now just ascended maybe to a level like Baldy's talking about. We're speaking him in terms of, hey, maybe Drake May's the MVP of the league.
Well, I mean, I expected that, once you have identified the quarterback, everything else is easy behind it. Right? They had the money and the equity. They still have $56 million in salary cap space to continue to improve their football team. And they brought in the bright leader. And I think I have to tip my cap to Josh McDaniels because he's done it again. Maybe not as a head coach, but as a coordinator and a developer of concepts. They run the same plays, it's different sides. They keep it really simple. It's about execution and playing fast and everybody knowing what to do. And if I run one play to the other side, it's a new play for the other side, but it's the same old play for us. And I think they understand what they want to do and what the strategy is, and they play at a high level.
And Baldy, let's get out of here with this one. I keep on hammering this point home that, hey, listen, the assets and the capital are great for the Jets moving forward in terms of continuing to build this thing. But these final 7 games are huge for this team as far as culture is concerned. And you're going against New England here on Thursday night. Nobody expects you to win this game, but you have won 2 games in a row, and you should have some confidence because you're playing more complementary football. You're showing signs of a developing and more disciplined team. So this is an awesome opportunity for these guys on a short week.
And a measuring stick, too.
Yeah.
In what the Jets want to do under a new regime right here. I mean, to Bart's point, the Patriots had a lot of money. They went and got Milton Williams, got Harold Landry, got Spillane, got Diggs. I mean, they spent the money on players that are impacting their team, and then they struck gold in the draft. Travion Henderson, Will Campbell, Jared Wilson, like these guys are all starting, and they're all big-time players. So, that's the blueprint. You got to draft well. You got to draft and develop. You got to spend your money that they'll have wisely in free agency and find your guys. Carlton Davis. You watch Christian Gonzalez is an elite player. Like they put him on Ibuka and he won that battle. But that being said, you learn a lot about yourself when you go up against good teams and well-coached teams. And one thing in talking to the Patriots yesterday and talking to Vrabel. Like, they are hard-nosed, coach hard, make the guys accountable. Like, Josh McDaniels is not a great head coach, but he's a great coordinator. And they, just talking to Drake May yesterday, like, the demands that they make during the week pay off on Sunday. And I'm sure Aaron is doing the same thing with the Jets. And so use this game Thursday night as a measuring stick of where you are and where you want to get to.
Good job, boys. You guys are in playoff form right now. You don't need any measuring stick. We'll see you next week.